Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for waiting a little bit. So we are ready to tune in into our next section, and we are super excited about that because it's going to be more related to psychology, and I love this actually. That's my personal interest as well, and it's going to be also, well, continuing conversation about conversion rate optimization. And you know, you will learn how you can work better with analytics. And so our today's speakers in this section, that's Casie, Gillette, Tiffany, daSilva, and Shanelle Mullin. Well, I believe, was I right with pronouncing Shanelle your surname? Okay, I was trying my best. I was like, okay, cool. So, just, you know, not just wasting any minutes, I'll go straight forward to our speakers and make, oh, hold on. And they'll make a quick intro. And so, just 1 second. Okay, so I have a pleasure to introduce to our listeners Casie Gillette from Co-Marketing, and she's well, she's a director of online marketing at Co-Marketing for sure, and also she's like, you know, that's a B2B digital marketing agency that is based in London. Oh, I'm sorry, not in London. We had our in Boston. Actually, I really love Boston. That's a really beautiful city. Actually, I was there. Yeah, I was there at Inbound, so I love Boston. Okay, I'm sorry for that, but I have a remark that I really love Boston. Okay. So, and she's going to talk about how you can define content, well, how you can figure out how you can do better your content marketing and how you can identify content gaps. So, Casie, are you ready? Yes.
Your marketing, whether it is content or it is conversions, how do you make sure that you're using the data that you have and the data you can find to make sure that you're giving your users what they want? So yeah, just briefly, thank you for the introduction, Alex. So my name is Casie Gillette. I am in Boston, although London does sound really fantastic. And I've been doing online marketing for 11 or 12 years at this point, really working on the search side. And a lot of that has transitioned into content, right? So much of what we do is focused around content. And for us, we have a lot of B2B companies. So, the buyer journey tends to be longer. The sales cycle is longer. So we're continuously thinking about how do we make sure we're giving users the content they're looking for along that journey. So, really, I feel like it's the dilemma we all face. Do our customers love us? Do they like what we're giving them? And the answer is kind of, or maybe, right? We're not always entirely sure. A lot of times we might think we're giving our customers what they want, but we may not be. And really, we need to figure that out to know, should we continue investing resources? How do we make sure we're making the most of our time? That's where data comes in. We live in this age right now where we have so much information at our fingertips. People are buying on different channels. The technology allows us to really gather that. And so it's on us. How do we find those gaps? And it starts with our data. And so that's really what I'm going to take us through today, in this short 8 to 10 minutes here, giving you guys the right places to look to help you figure out where you can really focus. First and foremost, start with what you know. This is so important. How much time are you actually spending looking in your analytics and looking at your data to see what's driving traffic, what's driving conversions, where are people leaving, where are they staying. This is really, really a key thing. And we do this, on a pretty frequent basis. We're always looking to see, both from an organic perspective, from a social perspective, from an email perspective, what content is resonating the most with our users. So I always like to start by looking just at the pages, the posts themselves, whatever you're trying to build, to determine what are the themes that you're seeing, right? You'll start to find that there's probably a few posts around a certain topic that are doing substantially better. Also look at your top referral pages. This is something that I think is often overlooked. Where people who are sending, this is where people are getting to your site, whether it's from links, whether it's from social. So this means this is what people are actually interested in, that they're actually clicking in. So take a look at your top referral pages to see what's resonating. Same thing with top referral sources. So one of the things I like to do is go in and look at who are the companies that are driving traffic to your site and what are they saying about you, right? Because clearly people were interested enough to click through that link to come back to your site. Spend some time looking through those referral sources. Also say top shared content. So I talk about BuzzSumo all the time. I think it's such an awesome tool. They don't pay me to say that. I just genuinely love it, partly because of the data that it gives you about your content, about competitor content, about links. Take a look through here to see on your site what's actually driving shares, right? Because that tells you this is what people feel passionate about, that they're going to share it with their audience. Also look at top engaged content. So I think this is something we don't always think about. Yeah, maybe we got traffic from it, but what about people responding to it, right? Your content always has different goals. Not every single piece of content is geared toward driving a conversion, is geared toward driving a sale, or is geared toward a visit. Take a look to see what were some of your most engaged pieces. Mine are usually conversations, so that's not super helpful in this example per se, but it is always good to look through and see, what did people respond to. Your top linked content. This really kind of falls in line with your referral sources, but again, take a look and see what really resonated with people enough to the point that they felt like they wanted to reference it on their own site. So what else, right? So that's your data. I know I'm going through this really fast. I'll have these slides live as well. But what about your customers? So we can use our own data and start to identify content themes. We can see what's resonating, what people are doing once they're on the site. But what are your customers actually saying? Because this is really the key, is figuring out what is it that they need? What are they asking about? What are they actually looking for? There's a few places that I really turn to that I think offer some really phenomenal information. AnswerThePublic.com. It's a free tool. There's a really creepy guy that is there when you land on the site, but you just put it in a query and it'll give you all these questions around that query. So in this example, I used B2B marketing, but you can see questions, you can see other alphabetical order, just a list. But I really love to hone in on the questions to see how are people asking about the theme or topic that I'm focused on. FAQ Fox is another one. So I've been using this for a little while, but what I really like about this tool, again, it's free. It'll actually scour forums. So it'll go through Reddit and take a look at, again, what are people talking about? What are threads? What are questions? Really, really helpful when you're trying to define what it is your audience is looking for. Keyword tool, another one. The reason I include this here is because I like that it includes YouTube and Amazon. How people search there is very different. The content that they're looking for there is very different. So you can start to put in some terms around here and again, get questions people are asking in YouTube. We see companies all the time that put out really great web series that are asking questions and answering questions. There's so many video results now. So definitely take a look at that because it's different. Q&A sites. So I like when I, when I go to recommend forums to client, I always kind of laugh at myself because I think that people assume when you're talking about forums, you're talking about like, 1990, like let's just have a chat room. But sites like Quora offer some really good questions. They're fairly active, and it can really start to give you insights again into what are people asking about and what are your competitors saying. We do use this, but the other thing that I'm not saying is that Quora often shows up in search results for those questions. So again, it's kind of a dual play there to understanding your audience, but trying to be seen there as well. SEMrush is a tool that I absolutely love. So I think it's really great for finding content ideas. Again, finding where you might not have content, finding content opportunities. One of the things I really like to do, I'm sure that we've all seen how many different answer boxes are in search results now. You have your answer boxes, you have your knowledge graph, you have your featured snippets. How do you make sure you're there? Right? And it really helps you understand the intent of the searches and can show you the content that you don't have. So what I like to do is put my website into SEMrush, into the organic search side, and filter it by instant answers, by featured snippets to see what are some results that I'm already in. Do I have the content? What content is currently showing there? And can I manipulate it or enhance it to get into one of these answer boxes or to get into these snippets? So kind of an aside, but we do have a post on co-marketing that talks about this. How you structure your content is very much tied to how it appears in those answer boxes. So SEMrush, really great tool to give you insights into where your content is actually showing in search and what those opportunities might be. Google Trends. So a few years ago, I just really loved this idea. Rhea Drysdale was presenting and she was talking about how when they were redoing their site, they were trying to define the difference between digital marketing and internet marketing. And that even though it didn't seem that different, when you started looking at the trend, it was very different. So when you're thinking about how you're saying things, is it how your customers are saying things? Is it what's actually, trending? Things change, right? So we want to be making sure that we're staying in line with our customers. So take a look here, compare your terms, see what's resonating, what's growing, and what's not. Again, back to BuzzSumo, my favorite tool. What I like about this too is you can search by a specific topic and it will show you the top keywords. So again, giving you ideas for what's showing up, what people actually want, and how you can start putting together content ideas around that. So really, as I am getting to the end here, what does it all mean? That's a lot of data. What do you actually do with it? You need to have it all funneled together. This is really the key thing that I think you'll hear in any presentation that involves data. It's fine to look at it, but you need to have it in one place so you can actually make sense of what it is. And by putting all the data together, what you're ensuring is you're giving your audience the right content, the right time, and the right place. So really what we want to do is just make sure that our content is aligned with what our audience is looking for. And giving them answers to the questions that they're asking. So that takes me to the end here, and I will turn it back to you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Casie. Thank you.
And actually, I'm also a huge fan of BuzzSumo. And that's a great tool. Yeah, really. You guys just need to try it. And if you work with content marketing, you can't say no to it. It's really powerful. And actually, I think they become even better when they integrated Majestic data inside. So right now they not only have social share, because that's what I was really missing, because I want to know not only how a particular piece is performing in terms of social engagement, but also it makes sense to check links. So well, I believe it's just right now it's a great one. Okay, and so I believe we are ready to move to our next presenter, Tiffany, can you hear me? Can we hear you?
Yeah, let's test this out. Can everyone hear me?
Awesome. Thank you. So I have a pleasure to introduce to you Tiffany daSilva. She's it's flowco.jo. I'm right, yeah?
Flowjo.
Yeah, actually, I checked it. That's something that, like, I'll try to explain that you are going to just, say yes or no. No, you are totally wrong, Alex. So that's something that should help you streamline your creativity process and organize it, because that's something like really, well, I would say nicely designed. I love nice style, nice things. So that's something that you'd love to touch, I would say. So cards that you can use for your, in order to, kind of structure your brainstorming processes or whatever you want. So am I right?
Yes, you are. One of the biggest things I noticed when I was working in agencies and stuff was, people would start reading all those articles out there, which, there's so many and they're great, but you get so stuck, like start reading more and more and more, and you don't really get an answer to any of the questions that you have. So this is just a card deck that you can go through. And when you're having problems with acquisition, just look at the acquisition section and go, have I done this? Have I done that? And it's just, and you can take a walk with it, and you can go and bring it to a meeting. So I just found that it was useful for me. So I was hoping to just share it with the masses and see if it helps anyone else.
Awesome. Yeah, really. I just, I need to go back to your website. I think I'd love to order. I'll be back. Now I feel like, I just, connecting the dots. Awesome. Thank you very much, Tiffany. So I believe you have over 12 years of experience in digital marketing, and today you're going to share with us where data meets psychology and uncovering the people behind your analytics. Sounds really interesting. So, well, the floor is yours. So just, go ahead.
All right, let's do this. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Again, we're talking about where data meets psychology and uncovering the people behind your analytics. One of the biggest things that you probably heard from Casie, and I hope that you kind of write down and remember, is that when you get into a room and you start looking at data, sometimes we take little pieces of data here and there, and we try to create this whole story with it. And sometimes it can get, if we're not looking at everything kind of at the same time, we might find ourselves going down the wrong path. So I just wanted to kind of give you kind of an instructional on these are the different elements that you can look at to really look at the psychology or the person behind some of the data that you might be seeing in Google Analytics, but also really being able to measure the experience that users are having when they enter your site. So let's just get started. So instead of looking at the data mindset, I really want you guys to look at what I call the feels mindset. So you're going to have to put your data hat, not necessarily off, but kind of aside, and really try to look at this from a more feeling mindset rather than a data mindset, even though we are going to be showing you data points that you can use. And why does this all matter? I don't know about you, but I've been in meetings where, let's say we're looking at a certain specific type of data. Let's say we're looking at someone says, hey, there's this new demographic, and it looks like people that are 50 to 60 years old are really jumping on our product, and they're using it like crazy. Let's go and buy advertisement on Facebook just for this 50 to 60-year-old demographic, and let's put all our money towards it. And then when you take a step back, you actually realize that, okay, we're only looking at 2 weeks worth of data. Our company was actually at a conference that was mostly 50 to 60-year-olds, so maybe we're not exactly getting the biggest and best picture. So this is why it's really important not only to look at some of the things I'm going to show you, but also try to understand why maybe you're getting the results that you're getting. Where does it fit with your overall digital marketing plan and what your actual target audience that you thought was? And we can make some really educational decisions moving forward based on it. And we'll ultimately, what I hope that you'll see is that data plus this feels mindset does equal growth. There's a reason why traditional marketing is still big. There's a reason why the Super Bowl ads from yesterday are still making tons of money and bringing traffic. It's because people still want to feel things, and we still have that emotional side to marketing. And sometimes when, especially in online marketing with all the data that we have right now, we can get so focused on that we forget that there are people behind the numbers. And let's look at how we get that feeling of focused data mindset. So these are the different elements that you're going to be looking for in Google Analytics. Now, again, like Casie said, don't just look at one. Look at everything all together and ask yourself what it's telling you, but also get yourself a nice, I like to look at a year's worth of data. If you don't have that, maybe 6 months, but don't look at the last 2 weeks, especially sometimes I work with very small startups sometimes, and they've only been around for a very short time. Be patient, wait for that data to come in before you start making grand ideas on, we're going to put all our money towards this. If you don't have this type of data, and you don't have that 3, 6, 12 months worth of data, then start testing, start using your money in different areas until you find out, but don't go just deciding to target one area all the way unless you've really decided that you have all the information you need for each of these sections. So let's look at them separately. Most of the case, before we look at this, we really need to remember that we're focusing on the experience of the user here. So keep that in mind when you're looking at all these different items. So time on site. First, how long are people on the website? If they're only on for less than 10 seconds, less than 5 seconds, they're basically going in and bouncing out. Are you really going to take those people's information into account? The only thing that they're really telling you is they don't like what you do, they don't like what you're offering. So either that's because demographics might be wrong, or it just might be that your landing page needs fixing. So you see, there's all these little questions that show up when you look at something like that, like time on site under 10 seconds. So it's really important to maybe ask those questions and use tests to try to figure out if that data is actually right. Another way you can look at it is how long are people on your site. If you have this group of people that are on it for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, maybe even more than that, you obviously have people who are very interested in your product. So maybe dive in, create a separate group in analytics, the high converters or the really engaged people, and start to look at them, segmented to see, okay, what are they doing? What are the areas that they seem to be looking at the site? Is there information here that maybe we can move to the homepage to ensure that the people who just bounced out all the time, maybe they can capture that information and be a little bit more interested in your product. So that's how time on site can give you experience. How many times do they visit? Now, this is important because you're looking at how many times someone visits that is a converter, and how many times do they visit that's a non-converter. So if someone's coming in a bunch of times, they're not converting on your website, and you don't have this crazy blog that everyone loves that warrant visiting you a bunch of times, maybe start asking yourself, are people not getting their questions answered? What can we do to make sure that they are actually converting? And what are the places that those people go that are converting, even though they've been a couple times? Are there certain pages that they need to view in order to get the full breadth of what you're offering? Can you offer maybe those pop-up, I can't remember what it's called right now, but the chat boxes where you can ask them, do you have any questions right now? Or maybe if you want to find out, why someone has to come to your site so many times, maybe have a pop-up questionnaire that asks them right before they're leaving, did you find what you were looking for, or what were you looking for that you didn't find today? And maybe that can give you some more clues as to the why behind how many times someone visits. So as you can see, there are these data points, frequency on where you would find frequency in analytics. That's really important to know, but there's still this feeling and emotions behind it that you just have to start asking those questions and then test, create a test based on those. So next, what are your assisted conversions telling you? In a lot of cases, what I hate about assisted conversions, but this month they're looking at it, so it just kind of adds, like, it makes you seem like you're doing a little bit better than you actually are. So I tend to not use assisted conversions in that way, but I do think it's important to know, is it social media that's pushing someone to convert? Did someone come in on PPC but then come back on direct? This is really important, because not only are you getting a little bit more information of, when they're coming into your site these 2, 3, 4 times, are they coming in from different sources? Are you getting them back because of a remarketing ad that you keep showing them that brings them back? Is it your social media presence that's so enticing that people keep saying, oh, maybe I do want to buy that thing? So that's how your assisted conversions can help you. And if you do notice that there's something that seems to always be happening with your converters and seems to always be pushing people down the funnel, then maybe start to take some extra budget dollars, or just start focusing a little bit more attention and testing on that to see, okay, if we up this area, or if we focus on this certain maybe remarketing ad, maybe the type of social media post, or the type of content, is there a way that we can increase conversions overall? Next, what experience? So this is the device that they might be using. Is it mobile or desktop? And if it's mobile, let's say, are they converting well? If you see a low conversion rate on your mobile, just one of the biggest things that people tend to not do, take out your mobile phone and actually see why they might be experiencing it. Or if you don't think that you can do this in a way that because you've been in it for too long, or you're not seeing it properly, give it to a friend and say, hey, can you check out my phone? Can you go through this and try to buy something, or try to tell me what you're seeing, and do you understand what I do? Just getting that kind of user testing experience from it. Or check out your desktop, and maybe people just aren't going in desktop anymore as often, but really trying to understand the different experiences of your website and how each is converting. And more importantly, where are they from? Like that demographics example I did, I noticed that sometimes people say, oh my gosh, like Las Vegas seems to be like doing really well right now, and let's pull our money to Las Vegas, when really there was a conference that maybe you were speaking at a certain time that kind of created an influx of people coming in to your website from Las Vegas. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's a place you need to target, but kind of keeping that in mind when you're looking at where people are from. But when you look at overall in a year, if you start noticing that, even though you've been primarily focused on North America, you might notice that the UK seems to be doing really well. If that's the case, is there a way that maybe you can change your product around, or change currency, or add, or start bringing in UK? Sorry about if you hear that fire alarm, I'm in the city. But if you do start seeing that maybe a different area, you can create a digital marketing strategy around a new location. So here are the 5 different ways that you can use analytics data to really bring on growth. And again, I would maybe go through each separately over a year's or 6 months worth of data, and see the different things that you find out. And then after you do that, start asking those questions, and then maybe a new piece of paper, just say, okay, if this location seems to be really big, anything that we did, is there a reason for it? And maybe then bring everyone together in a meeting and start asking people these questions. It's really important, I think, when you get everyone in a room to get the most out of a meeting, do that data look first, and then start asking the questions that come out of it. Because what I tend to see a lot of times in meetings is people jump on Google Analytics then, and then start throwing out data points. And I mean, you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know if it's actually valid, and it starts to convolute some of the ideas that could be happening in that meeting, because someone will jump on it and say, like, yeah, let's do that, and that's it. Like, you're now spending money on something that you probably shouldn't. So that's these are kind of great ways to start and to start asking questions. But then you need to start looking at, okay, what's happening when you actually buy, and what's going on in your brain. And sometimes data can't give you that information. So one of the biggest areas that I think are awesome is user testing. And what I end up using is usertesting.com, but there's tons of different user testing platforms, I'm sure, out there. And what you're getting people to do is you're getting them to look at your website, maybe ask some questions like, what do we do? What's the first thing that you would do if you were trying to get more information about our site? Do you like the design? Where is the call to action? Ask them to go through the call to action. And then once they're done all those things, ask them to do the same with the competitor, because you can see how it compares. Even though it's a little bit skewed because they already know what you do, but they'll be able to start saying, okay, well, I like how you did this, but I understand more of what you do based on what your competitor is saying. So you get to maybe get 10 people to do it, 5 people on desktop, 5 people on mobile, and really get some information from users. And I don't know if this is going to work, so I'm going to need Alexandra's help to see if you guys hear it. If you don't, I'll just shut it off and send this through Twitter. But I'm going to play this, and this is kind of an excessive video about user testing. They actually get this girl to drink copious amounts of wine, and then ask her to go through a sneaker website to see what information or what she likes and what she dislikes. So if you can't hear it, just let me know, and I'll pause it. But here's this.
I have the option of Era 106, which doesn't make any sense. Slip-ons makes sense. And old school, but spelled wrong. There's a whole lot of words and I don't feel like reading it, so I'm gonna press close. Why the fuck are they giving me colors? I don't care about their color schemes. I want to have my own. Like, fuck them. They don't know.
No problem.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
post
sorry.
this
Yeah,
on-
please post it, and we are going just share it, because it was just just black screen at some point. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. So I'll post this up. I thought it was a slight chance that it might work. But what you're going to see is what she ends up realizing, or what she keeps saying over and over again in her drunken ways, is I want to be able, I don't like the colors that you chose. I want to be able to design my own. And even though there's like choose a type of colors, she's still not happy with the way that it's done. And by going through that user testing way, if you, let's say you asked 5 or 10 people, and you start hearing that same thing being said, like, oh, like the colors are okay, but I would have liked it to be this, then maybe you don't have necessarily the right user experience for this sneaker company. Maybe we need to start re-looking at it. Maybe we need to start changing it. And so that's what user testing is, and I think it's really important to start really getting an idea of how your website compares to your competitors, and also hearing the words. It's the qualitative data as opposed to the quantitative. Next is 5-second test. Now I'm going to kind of go through this really quickly with you so you can understand how it feels to go through a 5-second test. But basically, you'll show someone a website for 5 seconds, and they need to tell you what the site is actually about. So let's go through one. I use 5secondtest.com to do this. So 1, 2. What was that for? There's a lot of words there, probably hard for you to figure out. But it's for grant program that you can use to help you lose weight. So this tells you, it tells you there, but there's all this information around it that might be difficult when you first look at a site for 5 seconds. So maybe you want to just use this, get rid of this for now, or maybe put it above the fold, and just have something a very simple call to action. Here's another one. Again, probably hard to figure out what that was about. Now, this is a project management system, but like a lot of companies do, they love to put a lot of words in their headline. Not good for SEO, and also not good for a user to figure out in 5 seconds or less what this page is actually about and is what they're looking for. So, and next. Now this one was a nice, easy one. Probably learned that it's about fans and heaters. And Dyson cool fans, even if you were able to catch that. And the different shapes that you have. It's a nice, simple website that you can figure out very quickly that you're looking for fans and heaters, Dyson, and 2 different kinds. The last thing I'll look at is heat maps. And heat maps, a lot of people already know what this is, so I won't really go into it, but it's really important to see what areas of your site people are actually looking at and whether that's good or not. So here is an Amazon. People are looking at the fast shipping and more, which is probably what they want you to be doing. People seem to be really interested in Prime Music. And start your free 30-day trial. This isn't as highlighted, so maybe get rid of some of the pictures that you have here, since they're, probably not giving you that much information, and get them to focus on the call to action a little bit more. And again, you can see how just adjusting different images can make sure that people are actually seeing what you want them to see. This is my favorite example with, if you look at a baby looking at you, you're going to stare at their eyes and you're not going to look at the information around them. But here, you look at where the baby's looking and the information that people see, then you can redirect their eye. So that is how you can use data and the feels mindset to really bring on growth. And these are all the different ways you can do so. So you can follow me today at Bella Stone and Flojo SEO. Also, for anyone watching, I'll share this on Twitter, but if you go on flojo.co, you can get the growth hacking box that we have there for 25% off if you use the Digital Olympics discount. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for just, going through the different approaches where you can just, work with data and really make sense of it. As well as I really love 5 seconds test. That's what you probably should do with all your clients at some point when they say like, oh no, let's put here a banner, here a text. You're like, oh, no. 5 seconds test.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really makes sense, I would say, because some idea they doesn't worth it just running any A/B tests.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not worth doing the user testing if that first page doesn't even work.
Yeah. So I believe we are ready to move to our next presenter, and that will be Shanelle Mullin. She works at Conversion Excel. Really well. I believe that should be a big agency, yeah. Kind of. Okay, well, kind of big agency, I would say. And so she's Shanelle is mostly in charge of growth, content and growth at Conversion Excel, and she's also worked close with Conversion Excel Institute. That's something that you definitely should check, and they have a lot of great insights, and I'm sure Shanelle will share about it more. And so, Shanelle will tell us today about web analytics analysis, so how to find link fruit and A/B test ideas. So just, not wasting any time, any minutes, just going straight forward into your presentation, Shanelle. I believe you are muted. So, yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. And can you see my screen? Can you see my screen okay?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about web analytics analysis. As Alex said, I'm going to be talking about how to find low-hanging fruit and A/B test ideas. I'm going to focus on Google Analytics just because it's probably the most universal of all of the platforms. Most people listening have Google Analytics and they use it regularly. As you can see, I have a lot to go through, so I'm going to move pretty quickly, but hopefully I can catch up on any questions later on or via Twitter. So this is one of my favorite quotes. It's something that Pep, who founded CXL, said to me or shared with me on the first or second day of working there. So you don't have generic problems, you have specific problems. And that's really guided how I've learned about digital analytics. You know, I'm not interested in solving generic problems. I'm interested in specific problems, which means I need to dig into my own data and not rely on data that I might find in a case study or data that I read on a blog. You know what I mean? My specific problems and questions can only be answered with my specific data. So I'm really going to go through two aspects of the Research Excel model, which is just our conversion research model that we use. I'm going to go through web analytics analysis, and then I'm also going to touch on technical analysis a little bit, because to me, they kind of go hand in hand. And for the technical analysis, you're mostly using Google Analytics as well. So getting into the technical side of things is cross-browser testing. So in Google Analytics, to get to the screen you're seeing, you're going to go to Audience, Technology, and then Browser and OS. And pretty much throughout the whole presentation, I've switched from the default data view to the comparison view, which gives us this neat little red and green chart on the side there. And what it is just bounce rate compared to the site average. You can use any metric that you want to use. Conversion rate, revenue would be great as well. And you can see here that I have all of the different browsers. It ranked in terms of how many sessions come through via those browsers. So what you can do is you can click on any of those browsers and you'll pull up something that looks like this. And we want to do that because we want to always compare performance within the same browser family. So we don't want to be looking back at Chrome versus Safari or Chrome versus Firefox. We want to drill down into one browser and look at the different versions. So the middle version here is one that we could start with. And what you can do when you identify a problem like this is use something like Browser Stack, which is kind of replicating the experience that the people coming in this browser version are going to see. And you can use that to figure out what might be causing that 12.9% decrease in performance. Cross-device testing is very similar. You're going to go to Audience, Mobile, and Devices. Again, I've switched to the comparison view. And again, I'm going to focus on comparing within the same device family. So looking at the Samsung devices, see that the Samsung SMB312E, catchy name, is performing significantly worse than all of the other Samsungs. But again, I'm not going to compare a Google Nexus to a Samsung. And again, you can use various tools online that will replicate the experience if you don't have that device on hand. And since there are so many, that's unlikely. So just before we get into speed analysis, I want to address the fact that the mobile experience is very different. Intentions are different, motivations are different, friction is different. So a good desktop UX might not necessarily be a good mobile UX. And that's very important, especially when you're considering device testing, to make sure that you're not thinking, okay, well, just because this looks like the desktop means that it's a good experience, because what's necessary for a good experience on both is very different. So getting into speed analysis, you're going to see two main metrics when you're looking into this, and it's page load time and page interactive time. Page interactive time is the one you care about. Page load time is actually just seconds until every element on the page is loaded, which is really significantly less important than seconds until the site is usable. So that's what your users are judging your page speed by, not page load time. This is kind of a rule of thumb. Don't take it as a hard and fast rule, but generally if your site loads in 3 seconds or less, you're golden. You're not going to need to do too much. Of course, a faster site is always good, but you might not see as big of an ROI as, say, somebody who has a site that loads in over 7 seconds. They're likely going to see an increase in conversions just due to the fact that their site is now loading faster. So to check out pages that might be loading slow, go to Behavior, Site Speed, and Page Timings. Again, I've got the comparison view, and you'll notice I have document interactive time up there compared to the average. And I'm sorting it by page views. So now I'm seeing my most visited pages and how fast or not fast they're loading. And then I can go through systematically and take those pages and put them into page speed insights, which will basically analyze the page and give me some insights into why it ended up be loading very quickly. And at that point, if it were me, I would just pass it off to a developer or somebody on the tech side of things. They're gonna be able to run with it and fix it a lot faster than you. And you know, page speed insights isn't perfect, so they'll likely have some additional insights. So now we can get into the actual web analytics analysis section of the Research Excel model. And I'm gonna really focus on how to make the data that you have usable and useful. A lot of people kind of end analytics at going into Google Analytics and seeing how many sessions they had last month, reporting it to their boss or their boss's boss, or even just reporting it that doesn't actually make it to any sort of boss, and then not coming back until next month. So hopefully we can change that. The first step is really to start with a question or a specific problem. That's really going to guide your investigation into analytics. If you don't start with a problem, you're not going to find the answer or find the solution. The best way to think about a good question to ask when you're going into analytics is, what will you do with the answer? So if the answer is nothing, then it's probably not the right question to be asking, because all of your answers should be really actionable, and you should take that answer and do something with it to improve your site. So before you get to really analyzing anything, you want to make sure that your Google Analytics is reporting correctly. Honestly, this is really common that it's not reporting correctly. So definitely take the time to do this. Even if you think it's perfectly set up, it's probably not perfect. Make sure that you're collecting all of the data you need. Make sure that you can trust that data. Make sure nothing is broken or tracking incorrectly. Some common problems that you're probably going to run into might be missing from Google Analytics. The best way to address this is to use a checker to make sure that the code for Google Analytics is on every page that it should be on. You can also go through and make sure that you're using the latest Google Analytics code. Some people are still using a really old version of it, and it messes up the reporting a little bit. For number 2, data is different in the Shopper tool than it is in Google Analytics, and this is especially important for anyone in e-commerce. It's actually a really common issue, and usually it can be solved by looking at potential installation issues. If you set up your shopping cart tool midday, that can sometimes skew your Google Analytics data. If the two are operating in 2 different time zones, again, that can be causing problems. And then 3, you want to make sure cross-domain tracking is working. If it's not working, then information is not being passed to every domain, which means you're not tracking your users from the beginning to the end of the funnel. And I wrote an entire article on Google Analytics Health Check. It's really intensive, and I got a lot of advice from Analytics and PEP as well. So if you want to check that out, it's just at this link. And then you can really start getting into it. You can start with the highest value pages. So that's either your high volume, low value pages. So that would be like an old blog post that you wrote that gets a ton of organic traffic, or your low volume, high value pages. So that would be like your checkout page. I like to start with the former. So here in the screenshot, I have, again, the comparison view enabled. And I have page views and bounce rate, and I have an advanced filter on, and that's just to filter out some of the lower traffic pages. So I'm not using anything with too small of a sample size. And you'll see right away that page 3 is a high traffic page that has a very high bounce rate. So we want to look into that page and start investigating why that might not be performing as well as others, especially since 21% is nothing to overlook. And then we get into 404 pages and broken links. People know these are bad. They know they're bad for SEO. They know they're bad for UX. But very few people do anything about it for the most part. So what you can do is you can go into Google Analytics and you can search page not found or whatever your 404 page is named. Then you can click on that link and you're going to get a list of all of the pages that are creating 404s. And you can just go through systematically and fix them. You can also use a secondary dimension. And you can figure out exactly what sites and what links are referring to those pages. So that's helpful if you want to go reach out to people and let them know, if you want to change internal links as well. Then we get into auditing your funnel. The biggest thing here, this is the funnel visualization report in Google Analytics. And the biggest thing to know here is that the further down your funnel you are, the smaller the necessary impact. So say we increase the conversion rate at the add to cart by 1%. That's great, but of course it would mean more if it was a 1% increase in the review order page. Then you also have the goal flow report, which I personally like better. I think it's more flexible. You can apply advanced segments to it. You can use date comparison. And it shows like the actual flow that people are taking versus the funnel visualization, which shows the ideal flow that they would take, right? It's what you expect them to take. So this can often give you a bit more insight. And then you also have the reverse, the reverse goal flow, which you'll see in the far right corner here. We have goal completion for goal 1. And then prior to that, you have the last 3 steps that they took before they completed that goal. So often you're going to find funnels and flows that you didn't even know existed because it wasn't what you intended, but it's what people ended up using. And then the last thing in terms of looking into your site is internal search. Internal search is like a gold mine of insight. So if you have search enabled on your site, you can look at exactly what people are looking for and also how good you are at delivering what they're looking for. So I'm using the time after search metric, and I'm comparing that to the site average. The higher that is, the more likely it is that they found what they were looking for after they searched for the term. And you can use it for everything. You can use it for inventory if you're an e-commerce site. You can use it for SEO. You can use it for blog topics, just about anything. And then the last thing is to make sure you're segmenting your data. So whether you're segmenting it by converters versus non-converters, new versus returning, the list literally goes on and on and on. But unless you're slicing and dicing your data, you're not really getting any insights out of it. Just looking at the surface level reports isn't going to take you very far. And again, I actually wrote a full article on this. I could have written 5, so it's also just a little bit of an overview, but I think that you guys might like it. And last but not least, CXL Live is coming up in April in San Antonio. We created a coupon code, so if you guys use the code Digital Olympus, you'll save $249 on your ticket. So I hope to see you there.
For a great presentation, Shanelle. Thank you. So I believe we are ready to just, start our discussion. I have actually a couple of questions that we pick up from our audience, if you don't mind. So actually we have a question from, I would say, a guy who's really struggling because he did a redesign of his website and he was really, I believe he was really happy about that. But the thing that he received a significant drop in search visibility. So do you have any kind of recommendations how to do that? Because he wasn't changing anything. I mean, like in terms of URLs or whatever it is, it was like, just the same. But do you have any kind of recommendations when you are doing redesign and then you're just, pushing it live and then you see a drop in your organic search? So any kind of recommendations? Shanelle, I believe that will be really close to your current experience.
I've actually never experienced that from a redesign. Like he just changed the physical design of the site. He didn't change any structure or content or anything like that.
I see. But any kind of ideas you might be like, facing that? Okay.
I'm honestly not sure.
Okay, Tiffany, thank you for just, helping us.
Oh, no problem. So what I found a lot of the cases that if there was a drop after the redesign, either page speed is a factor because that can, like Shanelle said, that can actually change a lot of your search rankings. Another thing to look at is did any of your title tags or change? I would look in analytics and see certain keywords that might have gotten traction before that aren't anymore, and just make sure that the title tags, descriptions, any of that stuff hasn't been changed because sometimes it gets deleted in a redesign. Other thing is maybe where the code has been placed. Sometimes when you're when you create the site and it's loading the page, the code actually loads first and not the actual content. And that creates, again, that's a page speed issue, but also it's a little bit more difficult for Google to read your page if there's too much code before the actual content. So just, I would look at those little things first, page speed especially. But also look at where you're getting traction before and where maybe not. And if you have any questions and notice anything, just tweet at me. This is what I do every day, so I can help you troubleshoot if that's the case at Bella's.
Do you have anything to add, Casie? I believe we might lost Casie. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, I'll try one more time, and I think I have a better question for Shanelle that should be relevant to conversion rate optimization for 100%. So, so the question is, when do you need to start paying attention to conversion rate optimization? Do you need a certain amount of traffic, or it's just, what you should do from the very beginning?
Yeah, so you need a certain amount of traffic to be testing. But in my opinion, you don't need a certain amount of traffic to be doing conversion rate optimization. There's a lot that goes into it other than just testing. You can do, as far as I'm concerned, full conversion research before you have any significant amount of traffic. Obviously, you're going to be able to go more in depth the more traffic you have. But a lot of it relies on, qualitative feedback, looking into user testing, which is not necessarily relying on your own users. So yeah, I mean, why send traffic to a site that's not converting? In my opinion, it just it's kind of like sending people somewhere and they're not going to convert, so why do it?
Your thoughts about that, Tiffany?
I would probably say that's where the heat maps that I talked about, again, user testing that I talked about are really helpful. 5-second test, and also sometimes you might not be getting a lot of traffic, but if you're sending money or PPC traffic to a page, I would start looking at maybe trying different things on that, just because you are spending money on it anyway. Even doing bringing different users into your PPC pages, especially.
Thank you very much. So I have another one question from our listener, and so he's he's asking whether what kind of KPIs do you recommend to use if you really want to be focused on SEO strategy that is driven results and especially conversions. So what do you recommend here? So the question is, what KPIs do you recommend to ensure that your SEO strategy is focused on generating conversions?
I think it's all about SEO keywords and making sure not only starting right from the meta descriptions that you have, because that's, if someone's searching for, let's say, widget X, they look at your search results pages, and there's 5 different versions. Your meta description is really what's going to be the thing that converts them or brings them into your site, and making sure that when they do land on your site, it's simple. That widget X is your headline, because not only will that help us SEO, but it'll also help the person go, okay, I'm in the right place, and then all the information there is still speaking about that. In a lot of cases, people bring someone into a page, and now it's saying widget Y, and then all the information about the company in general, rather than the exact thing that they were looking for. So making sure that everything on that page, and making specific pages in your back end that are on all the different elements that someone might be looking at, and just that element, instead of trying to sell them the whole farm when they're just looking for a cow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really helpful. Thank you. So, and what are your thoughts, Shanelle, about that? Do you think you just, you need to really start from keywords, or you have any kind of other approach that will be really helpful here?
No, I agree with Tiffany. I think that a lot of it comes down to relevancy. Relevancy in terms of, is what you're producing relevant to the keyword, and then is your landing page relevant to the keyword as well? And then even, is your call to action relevant to the keyword and the landing page? So I would agree that if you're going to look for one thing, might not be a KPI, but relevancy would be on the top of my list.
Awesome, thank you very much. So I would say here's like, we have like kind of SEO KPIs conversions. Whatever is like, related to that, also different approaches that you can follow. But if you want to just, kind of set up a really meaningful strategy that is like, focused on conversions, focused on bringing really like, revenue to any business, what will be your, like, the very first step or any kind of a process that you would recommend to follow?
So what would be the process
if you like,
increasing
you've never
conversions
had
for a site?
conversion, you never work with conversion rate optimization, and you'd love to start doing that, but how you can start that? It's like, hey everyone, do conversions, but how can I do that?
I would generally start with conversion research. So kind of the model that I talked about originally, the research Excel model, and Tiffany was talking about heat maps and user testing. Also, a lot of other things fall under qualitative research. You have web analytics analysis, the technical analysis. I would do the conversion research upfront, and then also that kind of overlaps with the audience research. And then from there, you can put everything that you've pulled out of your research and put that into some sort of prioritization model. And then you can start working through like quick fixes, something you need to experiment with. If you're in the position to be testing, then you can add that you should be testing them, your hypothesis ideas. But I think for me, it all starts with conversion research.
Need any kind of like, specific tools besides Google Analytics? What do you recommend just, to use?
For that process specifically?
For that process.
Yeah. Well, Tiffany mentioned Hotjar. That's a big one. You can do a lot with that. User testing would be another one. I feel like those would be the two main ones. If you get into testing, there's a lot of other options you can go through, but that'll handle like Qualaroo. Qualaroo would be a good one for surveys if you're a smaller site.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have anything, Tiffany, to add to like what we've already touched? Or you can share something else, some different approach to that.
Yeah, actually, me and Talia Wolf, who I guess was speaking earlier, we've been kind of working together when it comes to Zero. And what we found is, before you even start Zero, I don't want to add more work to you, but really making sure your SEO technical side is down. Because in a lot of cases, you're going to be doing all these changes to conversion, and you're still wondering, like, why is nothing working? Like, why can't I get any lift? But you might have a broken site, like, first and foremost. So what we tend to do is do a little bit of a tag team where I'll do the SEO audit first, just to make sure everything's okay before she does any kind of testing. And I think it's really important to take that time. And even analytics. If you notice that if you're going in and your analytics doesn't have goals set up, doesn't have bot traffic removed, all those things need to be fixed so that your data can be understood and clean. So I hate to add more work to someone, but making sure the foundation's actually working before you take the next step and try to convert.
Okay, so you first recommend just at least to take a look at some basic technical issue that might occur on a website, which is going to kind of not letting just getting more conversions, even if you're going to just make it super just kind of powerful in terms of kind of any tricks, tips, whatever it is, best practices, whatever you prefer to use in that case.
Yeah, because it's the low hanging fruit, right? If you can fix page speed right off the bat, then you don't want to do that weeks or months later.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. I have a tricky question actually from our listener. Do you, he's kind of asking for advice. So do you think that ideally web analytics should be delivered by a separate specialist, or it should be delivered by the same person who just, ran the process? So how you can just, kind of maybe pros and cons, or just, your favorite option here? I
feel so strongly about this, but if you have if you have a person that's like the leader of the group, that should be the person that then he fixes to analytics or is in charge of making sure that that data is clean. But every single person within that group needs to understand how their information or what they do links to a number in analytics. I've seen so many times people working in silos and they don't really understand. They'll just do something or do a test and they'll see that information from that test, but they never link it back to analytics. So if you feel like if everyone's always getting together and looking at how what they do is affecting the analytics, and you're all in the group talking about that, you'll start to understand where you actually fit in with everyone else in your group. And that person that's above looking in, if they start noticing, okay, maybe you're not looking at this right, they're in charge to make sure that you're kind of keeping things, that you're looking at it in a valid way, and they're kind of your fact checker in the group.
Oh yeah. I was like, I was just previously I had been working in kind of big company, and we were like, well, actually we were managing all our analytics on our side, but there was like, a bunch of people who really didn't understand the value of those numbers and just, skipping that and just going straight forward into a process. Then we were like, why? You just, you can't do better without evaluating what you do. That's like, the basic rule of anything. You can't just, I don't know, better run or better swim, whatever it is, without like kind of measuring what you do. So I think like, it sometimes it's hard. You're so much into a process, so you can't just, kind of just a little bit stay away from that and look at that from a bit another one perspective, and then it might make sense to have a separated person who's going to tell you, oh, look, here is like actually something that you are just, overlooking. But what are your thoughts about that, Shanelle? Do you think that it should be just, a separated person, or just, it should be included in just, in activity of a person who's just, really delivered that particular process?
Generally, I think a little bit of both. So I definitely agree with Tiffany that everyone should be able to be held accountable for the KPIs that they're working with, and you should definitely be able to follow your actions and your tests all the way through to those KPIs. But I do think as companies get bigger, there's a natural movement towards a dedicated web analyst, at least one per team, sometimes two, depending on the size of the company. And I think just really those people should be digging into the analytics full time, and they're looking for the hidden insights that people might not otherwise have time for. But I still definitely think no matter how big the company is, you should be aware of your KPIs and be able to answer to them at any given time.
Okay, just shortly to sum up this, just do what really you can measure, and just look at your results and then improve, and just don't do what you can't measure, because otherwise it's going to be a disaster. But there is like a bunch of processes that just you can't measure actually. Like for instance, it's really hard to measure PR. So I mean, like you can actually. We were like I tried, because I work a lot with PR for my clients. We tried to implement some kind of like KPIs for that, which like doesn't really reflect the PR process, because it's a long-term one, and it just it affects a lot of different areas. So you can't say like this one, I don't know, it might be a particular conversion if you put like kind of I don't know, a specific button inside your PR campaign. Say like, okay, it was like actually the performance of our whole PR campaign. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but for a client sometimes it's like, oh, yes, it's like a good PR campaign because it's converting, but actually he or she just paid for other stuff, but because of that particular conversion it's a good campaign. Yeah, sometimes do you have like actually those type of clients that really that you need to show results for a long term process, that it's really hard to like kind of, I don't know, like it's really hard to track at the very beginning and show anything besides like we are working. Oh,
that happens a lot of when I start PPC, because they'll start PPC fresh, and we don't know anything. They don't even know anything because they just started. And so for the first, like, I always try to say, like, for the first 3 months, I mean, we're going to be throwing stuff a little bit at the walls, even though we're taking time to be smart about it. But they'll be saying, okay, we got this. We only got one conversion, and it's like, okay, yeah, I know, but we're trying. We're gonna gather information. We're gonna keep tweaking it. Or what happens is it's kind of awful because, you know, after maybe 3 months, they're like, okay, I'm sick of this. We're not going to get any results. And it always is the week when everything kind of just comes together, and now they got the process and they're like, we don't need you anymore. That kind of happens in companies. It happens it's just like we see so many times where it's just like sometimes you just need to take the time to the information. And you'll be learning, like, it takes a while to get remarketing working. It takes a while to get Facebook to find the right how much per conversion that you want. Sometimes, you know, you can get down to $2 or cents, but it takes time to figure out.
Yeah, really, it's very true. Yeah. So I'm just, you know, kind of like, you know, you sometimes it takes so much time to set up a process, and then it works, like, you know, so smoothly. But it's like, yeah, I don't need your company, your agency, or just, you know, your kind of your expertise here. I know how to click button, run, and stop, and add budget. Yeah, magic. Well, but the thing here, what I would say to, like, you know, what I keep in mind here, like what those people should consider, that digital marketing environment is a really changeable environment, and, like, you know, what really, I don't know, works today won't necessarily work tomorrow, just because, I don't know, on Facebook there is, like, you know, there is new type of advertising campaigns, or, like, you know, they changed how they segment an audience, and, like, you know, it's changing on a daily basis. And so unfortunately there is no solution that is going just, you know, to work for like even for a couple of months, because sometimes it's just, you know, a minor change, and also you need just, you know, filter, analyze, say, like, okay, it's good, it's bad, it doesn't make sense. So, you know, sometimes you're just, you know, trying to skip that stage.
Or the big question, is SEO really dead? Because that gets asked every year. Are we really out of jobs?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much for a great conversation. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Shanelle. That was awesome. I really love, like, how we are just, you know, touched different areas of digital marketing and ended up discussing just, you know, current trends, which is also, I think, really important. And thank you very much for joining us today, and hope to see you at our next Digital Olympus edition. Thank you very much. You are awesome. Thank you. And let's stay connected.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Что вы от меня?